This is Let's Get Growing with horticulturalist Nathan Wilson at Lanier Nursery and Gardens in Flowery Branch. Get information you need for gardening, landscaping, and home plant care. We're taking your calls right now at 706-865-3181 or email info@wrwh.com. Now, here's Nathan.
Good morning, gang. How are we this beautiful Saturday morning? I think I start the show by saying that every day, whether it's sunny, whether it is rainy or not. I think every Saturday is beautiful in its own right, don't you? I want to welcome you to Fake Fall again. Welcome to Fake Fall. We thought it was fall, but it's not really. It's still 90-something degrees today and counting. We'll see how long this lasts. I had an individual mentioned to me, this is not fall, this is just second summer. So welcome to second summer. We've had summer all summer long, and here it is in fall again. It just won't stay away. So this morning, though, we are here to help answer your questions about fall, hopefully. If you have some late problems here in the summer, feel free to give us a call, 706-865-3181, or you can send us a message, info@WRWH.com. Now, last week, I talked a little bit about deer, and I hope that you were taking notes. I know that a friend of mine was listening and said, I was just writing notes, writing crazy, and it was some really good stuff. So I really appreciated that feedback, because deer are a problem, and I'm sure that if you're listening to this, you probably have some kind of association with deer, and I was just hoping to give you some ideas on things you can do. At the nursery where I work at Lanier Nursery and Gardens, we always get questions about deer and plants that stay away, that keep deer away, rather. Well, the reality is that it's not just about the deer. It's also about, not just about the plants, it's also about using other things, which I talked about last week. So if you missed that, be sure to go check that. If you're new to our show and don't realize it, we do post our Facebook Live videos and also the audios to YouTube. So you can just go to youtube.com and search WRWH Let's Get Growing. Or if you like to go straight to Facebook and like WRWH's Facebook page, then you can find that we are live and we're streaming. If you aren't near a radio, you can watch us that way. Or if you'd like to join us on your mobile app, you can download the TuneIn app. The TuneIn app is a free app that you can download. You search for WRWH. You make that your favorite station, because it already is. And every week, every day, you can listen to all the great programming here on WRWH. So again, you can check out the deer stuff there on YouTube. I like to take an integrated approach. What I mean by integrated approach with deer is we're using physical barriers, we're using repellents, we're using plants that deer don't like. We're using plants in the right way, because combining plants is important when trying to keep deer away. And you can definitely check out last week's episode there at YouTube or on Facebook. Again, you can give us a call this morning if you like, but I do have a long list of things to talk about, questions that I'm getting at the nursery throughout the week I'd like to bring to you, because I realize it's very important. These things are very important, and most people have questions about the same things. Like every week I'm answering some of the same questions at the nursery, so I thought I'd just bring those. But if you have a question that I haven't answered or have not talked about today, feel free to call us at 706-865-3181. You know, every week I try to bring you a mini course in gardening. We're here for an hour starting at 9 o'clock, and I try to bring you a mini course in gardening, giving you good information that comes out of the colleges, the research institutions, land-grant colleges, extension and whatnot, things that are proven, things that are tried to work, that are tried and true as far as going to work for you. And so you can just, just consider this me a garden coach. I can be your free garden coach today, and you can get some good information by whether you want to call me or just sit back, relax, listen. And I hope, though, by the end of the program, another job of mine is to encourage you and to get you to get out there and get growing. That's the whole goal behind Let's Get Growing, is that we listen, we learn, and then we go and grow, because I believe that the more you know, the more you can grow. This week, even though it's really warm, I think we do need to talk a little bit about turf grass and lawns. It's not necessarily my favorite topic of discussion because as a horticulturalist, I do prefer plants that have stems and flowers and whatnot. But I want to talk about my love for turf, I guess you may call it. It's like a love-hate relationship. Before I talk about what we need to be doing with your turf and your lawn, I would like to start off by saying that I believe in America we are overusing our turf grass. Now, I know there's a lot of guys out there that are probably throwing things at the radio, and because guys, we like our grass. We like to get on the lawnmower and we go to town. We just shred that grass. But the reality is the lawn is really the most high maintenance plant in your landscape. People come into the nursery and they ask me all the time. They say, I want something that is low maintenance and carefree, not to worry about. And they tell me that right after they've talked about all of the tasks they've done for their lawn: weeding, feeding, mowing, blowing, mulching, whatever, all of these things. And, I like to describe a a turf, as a child or an infant that never grows up. Even after 18 years, you're still feeding it and you're changing its diapers. You're always doing something for it every week, week after week during the growing season. So if you're looking for a landscape that is low maintenance, to be honest, going with more shrubs, going with perennials, trees and whatnot, those kinds of things, they don't take as much pruning. You got to prune your lawn every week in the summer. But with plants, as far as trees and shrubs and perennials go, you can create an oasis. You can create a place, a sense of place. Now, lawn has its place in the garden. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we need to get rid of it all. But what I'm saying is maybe we limit it because it is high maintenance. It does take more input and time to keep it going. But in reality, if we maintain the size of our lawns to a reasonable size that's easy to keep and easy to maintain, then I think we'll be in a better shape. So that is my love-hate relationship with turf. And now let's talk about turf. There was a gentleman who called into the nursery and was talking about a fescue lawn. He's just started his fescue lawn and it was coming up, and he was asking if he should fertilize it. So I would like to give you a quick rundown here of the top tip points for creating a lawn. Of course, fescue is a turf grass that is a cool season grass, which means it looks awesome during the fall and winter and early spring. Because it's a cool season, it likes the cooler temperatures. It doesn't really like all of the heat and humidity. So summertime, fescues sometimes go dormant. They get thin or patchy, and they don't always look their best. So keep that in mind when you're going for fescue. It is considered an evergreen grass, unlike Bermuda and Georgia, which turn brown in the wintertime. But just remember that fescue during a hot summer will need a lot of water, a lot of attention. But if you wanted a fescue lawn, you would start it now. And here's how you would do it. Here's the top tips. First of all, with any lawn, before you start, whether you're seeding or whether you're sodding or sprigging or plugging, you want to make sure that you till the soil very deeply. Now, folks, this may be what we would call like a double digging action. Double digging means you dig once, you move the soil aside, and you dig again. If the deeper you can soften the soil to create that planting bed, the better off. You're essentially trying to start your lawn in a bed that you would maybe your vegetables. So tilling, creating a very soft soil. And tip number 2 would be to incorporate 2 inches of organic matter. Incorporate means just mix in, just like you're making a cake and you're mixing in the sugar with the flour. You're just going to mix in 2 inches thick a layer of organic matter. That organic matter could be compost, could be manure, could be a number of just whatever your favorite selection is. But the research shows that tilling it deeply, adding organic matter, 2 inches of organic matter, is going to provide a great starting bed for that seed to just bounce off and take up and create a beautiful lawn. Number 3 is to make sure that you sow your fescue lawn fairly thickly. What I mean by that is fescues, they grow as a bunch type grass, okay? Now, the bunch type grasses are something that you plant one seed and you get one plant. Most people are familiar with Bermuda grass, which has runners, right? It has above ground runners and below ground runners, and they go left and right and forwards and backwards and up and down, and they grow all over the place into your flower bed and the such. But the reality is with the fescues, you get one plant from each seed. So the thicker you sow it, the thicker your turf grass is going to be. So keep that in mind. Number 1, till deeply. Number 2, add 2 inches of organic matter and till that under. And number 3, sow the seed thickly because they're bunch type grasses and they will not run like a Bermuda. Now, the reality is once you get your grass growing, and this was kind of to answer the gentleman's question who called in this week to the nursery. To answer the question about fertilizer, to start off, you can let your you can give a high phosphorus fertilizer. High phosphorus fertilizers encourage root growth. They encourage root growth, which means that for a young plant, which is just starting its roots, you want it to get a great root system going. Give it some high phosphorus fertilizer, and what will happen is you'll give that plant a wonderful start. Now, I want to remind you, since we're talking about fertilizer, that a bag of fertilizer or a container of fertilizer will have 3 numbers on it, and they're separated by little hyphens. So the most common fertilizer, I guess most people are familiar with, would be 10-10-10, or commonly called 10-10-10. Now, that first number represents nitrogen. Now, nitrogen promotes top growth. It promotes foliage growth particularly. The second number, phosphorus, as I've already alluded to, promotes root growth. And the last one is potassium, and potassium promotes all around health, but also maybe flowers as well. So keep in mind, depending on what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to produce a plant like grass, you want it to have green growth. You probably want some fertilizer and some phosphorus for the root growth. But if you're growing vegetables, you want flowers because you want your tomato plant to produce flowers. So we want to have a higher balance on the lower numbers. So the reality is knowing that the top growth is produced by the first number, the bottom growth by the second number, and all around health and flowers by the third number, that can determine which type or which number fertilizer you use. So real quick, to make it pretty easy, the first number means up, the bottom number means down, and the last number means all around. So up, down, and all around. And that is the crash course on fertilizers. Now, I've talked about fescue lawns, but I didn't talk about the summer grasses. The summer grasses like Bermuda and zoysia, they're going to start going brown at some point whenever the season changes. So if you want to know a few things about what to do for your Bermuda or zoysia, hang around really tight because we'll be right back with more grassy information.
Have you played Apple Mountain yet? Come and experience the most talked about golf course in North Georgia foothills, complete with clubhouse, full line of equipment, driving range, senior discounts, twilight rates, and lessons for beginners as well as accomplished golfers. Open all year, 7 days a week. Have you played Apple Mountain yet? Call 706-754-2255 and book your tee time today. Apple Mountain Golf Course off Old Highway 441 on Rockford Creek Road in Clarksville.
One of the greatest things an individual can do to support his or her local community is to patronize the businesses. Your White County Chamber of Commerce encourages you to shop White County first. Shop local, support local. When you support local merchants, you support local jobs, help to keep your taxes lower, and fund city and county improvement projects with SPLOST tax dollars spent here. Live local, be local, buy local, shop White County first.
When it comes to local news and sports coverage in White County, you can count on the White County News. White County News, your local newspaper, has it all. Local news, family news, school news, church and outdoor activities, special feature stories, photos of people you know, and sports section that covers all the high school sports and then some. Count on the White County News every week. And thank you for reading the White County News, your local newspaper.
Back to more Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson.
All right, so I'm glad you hung on tight with us through the break there. If you are joining us on Facebook Live, you can ask questions there. It does seem like a good, comfortable place to ask questions. Just feel free as you're passing by, type it in, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. So if you don't know how to find us on Facebook, just go to facebook.com and search WRWH 93.9, and you will find us there, and we are live this morning. Well, at least we're live on the radio. I don't know. My brain might not be all live because we were just talking about grass. And when I talk about grass, my brain just shuts down. It's not my favorite plant, as you remember from the first segment, but I'll go ahead, and we talked about fescue and establishing a fescue lawn from seed. But if you don't have a fescue lawn, what do you do? What do you do with your turf grass like Bermudas and your zoysia grasses? Well, of course, Bermuda and zoysia are summer grasses, which means they look their best during the warm seasons. Of course, in a few weeks, maybe, depends on the weather, I guess, but whenever we get cooler weather, the zoysia and Bermudas, they will turn brown, and they'll be a nice brown carpet, where they were in the older days, the summer days, they were a nice green carpet. So at this point in time, you've got to make sure that you put down your pre-emergence. You've got to make sure you probably got a little bit of time, but we're getting closer and closer to that fall weather, I believe. You can feel it in your bones. You know it's on the way. And pre-emergence are generally a granule or some kind of chemistry that you broadcast onto your lawn. You can put them in your ornamental beds as well. And that chemistry creates a barrier on the soil that does not allow seeds to germinate. They don't allow seeds to germinate, which means you have less of a problem with weeds. Like I said, it does great for lawns, and it also does great in your planting your ornamental beds. Now, because it does damage to seeds before they become plants, I want to make sure that you don't put it anywhere where you want seeds to grow. Okay, so if you're planting vegetables or have a vegetable garden, you don't want a pre-emergent there, because they'll take care of your squash seeds and you won't have squash. Or if you have a bed where you let plants go to seed, or you've sown seed, you don't want to put the weed preventer there. You'll have to just pick through the weeds. But for a lawn, which already has established plants, or for a planting bed, which has established plants, feel free to put that weed preventer right there in the lawn or in your planting bed. Again, it creates a kind of chemical barrier that prevents seeds from germinating. But do it soon, because winter weeds will be on the rise. They will be on the rise, and they'll be ready to overtake your garden. And then you'll be calling me in the wintertime saying, I have henbit, I have chickweed, I have all of these bitter cress, all of these winter weeds popping up. What do I do with them? And I'm going to tell you, you got to just pull them out, or be very careful with chemical sprays. But you got to do that now, so that you don't have that discussion with me in the wintertime. Of course, I'll be glad to answer your question if that does happen. But pre-emergence, at the nursery, we have a product called crabgrass and weed preventer. And so it's also known by that. Weed preventer is another good name to call it, because that's what they do. They prevent weeds. And so that's what I'd like you to do, is just apply that into your lawn, into your planting areas, and you will be good to go with these winter weeds. Now, I know another topic of discussion that's going to be vital for this episode is pansies. Pansies is going to be a hot topic for the next few weeks. It's already been such a hot topic for the wrong reason. I received a phone call about 4 weeks ago. I guess it was 4 weeks ago. And an individual called and said, I am at the box store. I won't tell you which box store, but the big orange fiend. I won't mention their name, but she was there, and this was in the middle of September, folks, okay, or early September. And she said, the pansies here at this box store look terrible. Is it time to plant pansies? And I said, well, it's really early, but that's what the box stores do. They put them out at the inappropriate time. Then the plants wither and they melt in the heat. And then you go back and buy more. It's a scheme, right? But we want you to be successful. So here is my rule for planting pansies. If you're sweating, don't be a planting. Okay. And that rule applies for pansies and snapdragons and winter, I should say, cool loving annuals. If you're sweating, don't be a planting, because the pansies will just get to wilting, and then you'll have to replant and you'll be unsuccessful. So here's what we're looking at. I looked at the weather last night, and I don't know if it's changed since then, because it always seems like you got to be up to date just minute by minute. But last night I looked, and it looks like Sunday, our lows next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sundays, will be in the high 50s. It was like 59 degrees. That was our low. So if the daytimes are in the 70s, you can feel a little more confident as we approach fall to start planting pansies. As a matter of fact, the Extension Service in Alabama, they have an article online you can find that says November is the time to plant pansies. I still believe that we'll have some time in October to get them started, but the reality is that if you wait, you're going to be more successful. You've got plenty of time. Don't let the box stores fool you. They fool us on a lot of things, but don't let them fool you on pansies. If you're a sweating, don't be a planting, because the pansies will be a wilting. So the question is, though, when will it happen? When will the weather actually shift and we have a great season for pansies? We're going to keep an eye on that. And if you join us every week here on WRWH, Let's Get Growing at 9 a.m. every Saturday, you will get a week-by-week play on should I be planting pansies or not. So we'll see how this week goes. I'm looking at our Facebook Live here. We have some questions coming through. Kim says, if I'm going to put down mulch, should pre-emergent be under or over the mulch? Good question. And Kim, I'm glad you asked it, because this is a question that we get all of the time at the nursery. We really do. Because you think, does it need to be on the ground or does it need to be on the mulch? Because I'm going to put mulch down. And since we've talked about pre-emergent, it's a very appropriate time to address this. If you're going to put mulch down, I always recommend to put the mulch down first and then apply your pre-emergent. Okay, now why? Let me explain why, because I don't like to just talk and not explain why I would do that. The reason is because it's potential that there are weed seeds in your mulch. And so that chemistry will work its way into the mulch and down towards the soil and create a chemical barrier right there in that mulch layer for anything that's in the soil or in the mulch to be prevented in growing. So Kim, go ahead and apply your mulch and then apply the pre-emergent. That's the way I would do it, because if you put it below the mulch, if there's a chance, which there is a chance, of weed seed being in the mulch, well, now the chemistry is below the mulch and it won't affect any seed that are in the mulch. So put the mulch down and then apply the chemistry, the pre-emergent or weed preventer. And Kim, I don't know where you're located, but if you would like to come see me at the nursery, I have large bags of pre-emergent and small bags if you just have a small area. So great question from Kim. We're glad that we've got our folks watching us on Facebook Live, and you can join us there too and ask questions if you would like. Now, if you want to give me a call, though, call me at 706-865-3181, and I'll be glad to address whatever you like and have some kind of answer for you. That is for sure. Before I go into another topic of discussion, I do want to mention that if you join us next week, I have lined up a buddy of mine from a school. We studied horticulture together at the University of Georgia just a few years ago. I'm not that old. I'm just kidding. It's been a while. But I've reconnected with him, and he has agreed to come on the program and discuss. Now, listen closely, because this is why I'm so excited about being able to interview this friend of mine. His name's Cody, and he works at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. And he is on the horticulture staff there, the horticulture team at Orlando, Florida. He gives a lot of topics of discussion to groups down there, as well as doing horticulture about tropical plants. And he's really cool about those kinds of things. So if you hang around till next week, 9 o'clock again, same time, same place, we are going to have my buddy Cody Gambrell, and he's going to be with us from Disney World, live from Disney World, Orlando, Florida, as he discusses some of the secrets behind the magic to the horticulture at Walt Disney World. I told him, I said, Cody, I don't want to get you in trouble. I said, if you come on the show and you're willing to do this, I said, I don't want to ask too many questions. And he did tell me, he said, well, there's certain things I can talk about. He said, there's a lot I can talk about, but some things I can't talk about. So isn't that kind of interesting? So be sure to join me and Cody next week at 9 o'clock and Let's Get Growing. And he will tell us a little bit about all the cool stuff and secrets behind the magic in horticulture at Walt Disney World. So really quick, I want to remind you of the best way to plant a plant this fall. Remember, fall is a great time to plant. It's a great time to plant, even though it's been misconstrued in the past that we plant in the spring. Fall is the best time for trees and shrubs. And I want to give you my 4 steps, really quick, my 4 steps to remind you on how to plant a containerized plant. Rule number one is you want to plant a wide hole. I mean, folks, a super wide hole. Super wide is best. The recommendation is 3 times as wide. So if that root ball is 10 inches, you're going to want to dig a 30-inch hole. Now, some people pass out when I tell them that. Oh, that's a huge hole. But let me tell you, folks, that is what the research shows that is going to give you most success. Dig a wide hole. But it's not so bad, because rule number 2 is you don't have to plant it deep. Just plant it as deep as the root ball. So 1 times as deep as a root ball. If the root ball is 10 inches deep, just plant it 10 inches. Because if you go too deep, it's possible that you can have the plant drop. Because if you go too deep, you soften the soil underneath the plant, and the soil, as it settles out, will sink, and so will the plant. And we don't want anything under the ground. We want everything above the ground as far as stems and twigs go. So again, number 1, 3 times as wide of a hole as a root ball. 2, 1 time as deep as a root ball. And number 3, this is the key to the soil. You don't have to amend the soil, but you do want to soften the soil. Soften the soil so that you only have about 1-inch clods in diameter, nothing larger than 1 inch. Any larger, and you don't get good contact with the roots in the soil, but we want super soft soil. I always remind people, if you can till the hole. Soften the soil as much as you can. But you can also accomplish the same thing with a handy old trowel, a handy old shovel, and you can get that soil really soft. So tip number 1 is 3 times as wide as a root ball. That's the width of the hole. The depth of the hole is just 1 time as wide. Soften the soil as much as you can. And number 4, and probably the most important of all, listen closely, folks. The most important step in planting this plant is to fill the hole with a quality plant from Lanier Nursery and Gardens. That's exactly right. You want to make sure that you've done all this work to dig a beautiful hole. What you need to do is go to a reputable nursery, particularly mine, Lanier Nursery and Gardens. Come check me out. You can get ideas. We'll be glad. Me and my staff will be glad to help you out and get things under control, if you like, and give you some good recommendations on what to do. And you want to make sure it's a quality plant. So you know that it is when you go to a reputable nursery. So again, planting is a great thing to do this time of year. Fall is the best time to plant. And just to remind you, the reason it's such a good time to plant is because the atmospheric temperatures, the air temperature, okay, just to sound, a little easier there, the air temperature is going to get cooler, which means that the plant doesn't have to use as much water. Secondly, the soil is going to remain relatively warm throughout winter, especially the early days. The soil is going to stay relatively warm, and it's going to be much warmer than the air temperature, that's for sure. It takes a long time for the soil temperature to change. And what happens is the plant will continue to grow in that warm soil all winter long. And you are increasing the amount of root system, probably 2 times fold at least. And so by the time spring and the terrible summer days comes next year, the plants you put in the ground this fall is going to have an established root system. You're not going to have to water nearly as much as if you waited till the spring to plant. I tell you what, when people plant in the spring, they come to me and they have issues, mainly watering or too much watering if they're really adventurous. And these issues can pop up and in the spring and summer, and you'll have a high rate of loss in your garden. You'll lose more plants by spring plantings than if you plant them in the fall. So the plants that are hardy to our area, which hardy means they can handle the cool temperatures, the plants that are hardy will do just fine in the cool. And they'll be actually set above the rest for spring. Listen, folks, hang on through the short break, because I'm going to give you I'm going to be a little fortune teller and talk to you about a spider that is known as the fortune teller spider. And we're starting to see them creep around our Northeast Georgia gardens. So you want to hang around for the description of this invasive species. We'll be right back.
Sundays and Wednesdays are senior days at Captain D's. Come in and choose from 8 different meals with 2 regular sides starting at $4.99 each. Senior meals include hush puppies and a drink and are available for seniors 62 and up. Thursdays is Kids Day at Captain D's. Bring the kids on Thursdays, as kids' meals are only $1.99 with adult meal purchase. I'm Jim McClure at Captain D's.
We're just cooking in the kitchen. Young people working for their community and their environment. That's what 4-Hers are doing all across the country. From cleaning up litter by the roadside to cleaning polluted rivers. 4-Hers are doing their part to conserve our natural resources, but they can't do it alone. I'm Jacob, and I'm a White County 4-Her. I challenge you to learn how you can make a difference. Help us celebrate National 4-H Week, October 7th through 13th, and make the best better in White County.
As the weather gets cooler, the savings get hotter at Nick's Hardware and Furniture. Right now is the time to save and get end-of-season closeout deals on all in-stock Snapper zero-turn mowers. Stop in and see the selection and talk with Charlie and Bradley. They're offering you $100 over dealer cost on the remaining mower. Also, check out their selection of Echo leaf blowers and chainsaws for fall yard work. Remember, all equipment is assembled and serviced ready to use. Nick's Hardware and Furniture on the Square, downtown Cleveland.
Hi, I'm Jeff Corwin. Founded in 1877, American Humane is dedicated to the idea that all animals are entitled to humane treatment. Today, endangered species are experiencing a better quality of life because of the ethical, science-based standards established by American Humane. Teach your kids the importance of wildlife conservation by visiting humane-certified zoos and aquariums. To learn more, visit AmericanHumane.org.
Brought to you by American Humane.
Mostly sunny, east breeze becoming southeasterly. 20% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms, upper 80s. Mostly cloudy, 20% chance of evening showers and thunderstorms tonight, lows in the upper 60s. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny, 30% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms, highs low 80s. Columbus Day Monday, partly sunny, chance of showers and thunderstorms. Georgia meteorologist John Weatherby in the GNN Weather Center.
More great information coming your way on Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson.
All right, here we are. We are in the garden this morning. I hope you are, and I hope you've got your earbuds in out there digging, or maybe you're just waking up getting your coffee this morning. But regardless, this is Let's Get Growing, which means that's what we do. We try to get the right information for the right place, the right plants in the right place, the right solution for the right problem, for the wrong problem. I don't know. We don't like problems, but we want to get the right solution for the problems we have. And that's what we do here at Let's Get Growing. Again, I think that a friend of mine described it as second summer. And second summer is what we're in. We're not really in fall, are we? Somebody asked me at the nursery, where is fall at? And I said, well, it's on the calendar, but I don't think it's here. So we are in second summer, apparently. It's 90 degrees, 91 degrees this morning. We have had record temperatures. What do we do? What do we do? Well, we just keep watching for the trees. The trees are going to tell us when fall has really arrived. So we want to do certain things, but still we don't want to do any kind of pruning. We don't want to do any kind of fertilizing because that'll encourage growth. And we know when the weather is going to change. And as soon as it gets cold, any growth that's been encouraged these last few weeks is going to probably suffer from winter damage. Folks, we've got a really good next half hour. A really big show, in the words of Ed Sullivan. Really big show tonight. And if you hang on, we'll have, of course, my plant of the week, which I always try to bring a new plant or something you may have forgotten, an old plant, something to remind you to try something new in the landscape. And that'll be coming up later in the show. But of course, I want to remind you that if you're just joining us, that we also stream our show live on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and search WRWH. That's Buster and I. We're waving to the folks who are hanging on via Facebook. Search WRWH 93.9 and be sure to like and hit like and follow WRWH, because you'll find all of the great programming and information you need to know on Facebook, and also YouTube. You can search for WRWH. Or if you'd rather use a free mobile app, you can download the TuneIn app, and the TuneIn app is available wherever you get your apps. Just download it and make sure you search WRWH and you make it your favorite, because like I said in the beginning, it's already your favorite, so just make it your favorite on the TuneIn app. Now, this week, we had a presidential alert that came through our phone system, and everybody around, 2 o'clock or something the other day received a message. Well, I'm here for a pest alert. There is a pest alert. We need like some kind of fancy background there, don't we? Pest alert, because there is a non-native spider that is roaming around our area. It's roaming around our area, and I teased it earlier as the Asian fortune teller spider. It's also known as the East Asian Joro spider. That is Joro. And I'll tell you what, I made a post about it yesterday because I was visiting with a client, and there were these Joro spiders absolutely everywhere. They were all over the place at this individual's house. I was taking pictures of the spider itself, taking pictures of the webs, because the webs are pretty distinctive, and I'll tell you why in a second. But regardless, we posted those to Facebook, and we have gotten a stream of comments and discussion going. People are sending us pictures of their Joro spiders, and people are talking about how many there are in their landscape. So you can check out that discussion at Lanier Nursery and Gardens Facebook page. And feel free, if you think you have a Joro spider, just check out our pictures, and then you can send us your pictures of the Joro spider. Let me tell you a little bit about this Asian fortune teller spider. It first was discovered in our area in 2015, and we think, from what the research shows, and UGA is researching it, by the way, that it was first discovered and only discovered in our area, which really my stomping grounds near Houston and Jackson County down into Barrow and Madison County. So that's really close to home. Now, this particular spider is a large spider, and boy, I don't have anacrophobia, but that's the right word, isn't it? Anacrophobia, but I don't like watching this thing. It's got these long legs. Listen, folks, spider is at least maturity up to 3.5 inches. Now, to put that in perspective, that's wider than the top of a Campbell's soup can. Okay, that's bigger than the top of a Campbell's soup can. Now, if you're familiar with like the banana spider or the garden rider spider, there's a lot of names for it, the yellow and black spider, it looks a lot like that one, but there are some distinctive marks. The first thing that I think you'll notice, though, even without looking at the spider itself, is the golden web that it weaves. Folks, this is like something Midas touched, I swear. When you look at these webs, they are like pure strands of gold. They are also known as golden orb web weavers because of this golden web. It's not clear like most of the spiders that we have out here, but the spiders themselves are very, very distinctive, and you will be able to identify them without any special training. You just need to take a look at one, and you'll see them everywhere. They have these distinctive patterns on their bodies. They have these black legs and these yellow or orange stripes, really a yellow orange, deeper than like a sun orange, but orangey colored yellow stripes. Now, they have a bright yellow body and these bluish green stripes on their back. And then the most distinctive probably would be these red markings on its underside. So it's got this kind of red stomach. Folks, this is an unusual spider. Again, it's not native to here. We believe that it came somewhere from China or Japan, definitely from Asia. There's some other, Taiwan, Korea, some of those other nations have similar spiders, and the UGA research is showing that they can narrow it down. They can narrow it down to China or Asia. So again, you're going to see these golden webs that they are actually much higher in the trees than most of our native spiders. Most of our native spiders are, eye level or whatever, especially the riding spiders or garden spiders. But these, they go way into the trees, and the ones that we observed yesterday at my client's house, they were up in the top of an oak tree, and they bring their golden webs all the way down almost to the ground. These webs are huge and massive, and these webs are very strong. The actual web itself is super thick, super strong. It is probably made up of 15 or more strands of webbing, which makes, you could almost sew with it. You could put it on a sewing machine, wind up on a spool, and sew with this golden thread web. It is so strong. So if you can't see the spider, you'll see this golden web shining. Very impressive, very interesting. Now, how did they get here? So we mentioned they came from Japan and China. Most likely, people believe, the researchers believe, that they came in on shipping containers or pallets or crates, that were sent to the kind of Houston, Brazelton area, which if you're familiar with that area, Pendergrass, that area there has a high amount of industry there, shipping, receiving, and whatnot. And so most likely the little critters came in there. They're starting to take over that area, and they're crawling out further. Again, listen to this. There are over 60 non-native spiders in the U.S. And just imagine this one of the 60 came to our little area and starting to populate. Okay. Now, with that being in mind, you think, well, kudzu is a non-native plant, privet is a non-native plant, and they're taking over. What about spiders, though? What about non-native spiders? Can we use the word invasive? Well, the jury, we should say, is still out. The researchers don't think, at UGA, they don't think that they're going to be a problem to the environment or ecology or even the economy. Because, if there's a pest issue that could affect agriculture, it could be a major issue. Or it could be a major issue with ecology, because especially up here in Northeast Georgia mountains, we know about the woolly adelgid, which is taking over our native hemlock trees. And so the adelgid is introduced species. It crawled in the 50s, I believe, and it's just working on the hemlocks and destroying hemlocks. But the question is, will this spider cause problems? Will it cause problems? It'll probably take time, but you can be sure that the research at UGA is keeping up to date. They're actually encouraging people to call in or send a message. If you just type in Joro spider, Joro, Joro spider, and type in UGA, you'll find links and whatnot, and you can inform the researchers if you find the spider in your garden. And if you do, then let them know that they've made it to your place. Because the researchers are looking to see whether or not the Joro spiders are going to displace our native garden spiders. That would be a concern for the researchers. Now, the reason you need to get out and look today and tomorrow is because the Joro spider reaches its maturity in early September, and they begin dying off by late November. That's what we've already found, because since 2015, the research at UGA has been able to discover certain things, and they figured out their life cycle is maturity will be in early September, and they die off by late November. So get out there and look for these golden webs and these very distinctive spiders. If you can find the East Asian Joro spider, or also known as the Asian fortune teller spider, in your garden, go ahead and send us some pictures to Lanier Nursery and Gardens Facebook page, or you can send them to WRWH, of course, and we can share them around and kind of see what's going on. Let us know where you're located, and let us know if you have these spiders. But definitely check it out and see what's going on. Folks, hang on tight, because we've got to talk about saving seeds next. This is the time to save seeds. And if you want to save seeds, you got to do it the right way. So hang on tight, and we'll be right back with more spidery goodness.
The skills you can develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you an edge in the high-tech job market of tomorrow. The Guard offers career training to take advantage of your skills in science, technology, engineering, and math that can help give you a leg up to a high-paying and rewarding STEM profession. Gain practical experience with emerging technology and equipment not found in the civilian world. The Army National Guard can get you started in an array of STEM-related career fields such as information technology, communication systems, special forces engineers, technical engineering, air traffic control, and chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear science. Get a head start on your career in an exciting new field while earning money to pay for college, all while serving in your own community. Log on to NationalGuard.com or talk to a recruiter in your area to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard. Sponsored by the Georgia Army National Guard, aired by the Georgia Association of Broadcasters and this station.
This is Brian Alexander with Barrett Funeral Home. At Barrett Funeral Home, serving the community since 1976 is our slogan. It's an important slogan because it tells of our 42 years of dedication to the White County community. It also shows our commitment of continuing this legacy. In your time of need, do not hesitate to call on Barrett Funeral Home to provide our service of funeral home excellence. Call 706-865-3101 or visit our website at barrettfh.com. Barrett Funeral Home, 118 North Brook Street, Cleveland.
Back to more Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson.
All right, folks, we are back in the garden, back growing together. We just finished a little discussion about the East Asian Joro spider, which, you know, the jury's still out. Research is still being done. Brandy is a friend of mine, a customer as well at the nursery. She's joining us Facebook Live, and she says they have many in Pendergrass. She gave us a little information about what she knows on our thread. So be sure to check out the East Asian Joro thread on Lanier Nursery Gardens Facebook page if you want to see pictures and want to learn more about that. But just like this new spider is showing up in our backyards, I want to introduce a new plant to you. Maybe you already have this plant. Maybe you know about it. But this is my plant of the week that I went ahead and recorded for your gardening pleasure. Today's plant of the week is brought to you by the Schizandra family. Boy, that's a big, long word that nobody cares about. Anyways, today we're going to talk about a member of this family that has achieved a wide popularity over the past few years. It has a number of names it's commonly known by, including small anise tree, yellow anise tree, and star anise, but it's formally known as Alyssium. Yellow anise is a great native plant to the United States and is most popular because of its evergreen foliage that has an almost lime green color to it. Because it's evergreen, they can make great additions to your foundation plants to give a nice green backdrop to perennials and annuals all year long. Also, the leaves, when crushed, release a fragrance like licorice, which is where it gets its name, anise. Yellow anise, or Alyssium, can reach heights of 10 feet or more and get just about as wide. However, there are new cultivars available that do have some height control. Either way, this native shrub can also be used as a small screen to provide privacy. Being native to Florida and the Southeast, it does give off a hint of tropicalness and thus works very well around swimming pool plantings. What about flowers, you ask? Yellow anise does indeed flower. However, they are inconspicuous and, well, to be frank, not anything glorious. Even though they aren't spectacular, the creamy white yellow star-shaped flowers are kind of alien looking when you examine them closer. Yellow anise is super versatile as well. It safely grows in full sun, shade, wet soil, and dry soil. Plant it anywhere, it doesn't care. Anise gets its formal name, Alyssium, from a Latin word meaning to allure or induce, which refers to its fragrance. I think if you take one look at yellow anise, it will definitely allure and induce you to add them to your garden. If you're looking for a great evergreen for privacy or as a backdrop, try yellow anise. It's beautiful, native, and always available at Lanier Nursery and Gardens. Yellow anise, it's a great plant for both the eyes and the nose. And it's my plant of the week. So plant of the week is wonderful because this one in particular, I don't know if I mentioned it in the recording there, but Alyssium, because of that fragrance, is deer resistant. So it's one of those deer resistant plants that you can put in the landscape, and I can not guarantee many plants are actually deer resistant that are supposed to be, but anise we can because it has this super, super licorice smell when the leaves are crushed, and it's probably not very palatable to deer. So definitely check out small anise tree. Makes a great screen, and of course you can find that at Lanier Nursery and Gardens. We'll be glad to help you out with any questions you have while you're there. As I mentioned when we were leaving last segment, that I want to talk a little bit about saving seeds. Saving seeds is important. The idea and the concept behind saving seeds is as old as agriculture itself, because it is a form of cultivation where we work all summer on whether it's a flower crop or whether it is a vegetable crop, and we work to produce something. And at the end, in harvest time, there are seeds, right? It's this beautiful system that's been created for us where everything has a time and a place, and seed saving time is now. But I'm going to give you 4 tips. I like 4, either 3 or 4, but 4 tips for saving seeds, because if you don't do it right, you will have little success, and it's not a hard thing to do, but you do want to make sure you do a few things. So regardless of the seed, this is general. This is just a general set of tips. Depending on if it's flowers, you can treat them the same way. Anything that has a flower has a fruit, okay? This is, I know, always a topic of discussion. People saying, well, tomato is a vegetable, but it's actually a fruit. And with that in mind, there are seeds inside of the fruit. The tomato has seeds inside, right? Well, even if you have a pod of okra, the okra itself is a fruit. It's not very sweet or fleshy. It's kind of sticky and gooey. But the pod of okra itself is the fruit, and contained within are these miraculous seeds. So What do you do in order to make sure that you collect them appropriately? Number one, be sure to collect the seeds when they are most ripe. A lot of times we don't have success from saving seeds because we pick the seed or the fruit too early before it's ripe, okay? You want to make sure that whatever type of plant it is, that fruit has gone all the way through. Some fruits go dry, like okra gets dry when it's ripened, but tomatoes get very soft and mushy. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right aspect for the right plant. Number two, you want to make sure that you separate them from the fruit and allow the seed to dry. Allow the seed to dry completely. Any kind of moisture can cause rot and decay, and you don't want that. You want to make sure they're clean, you want to make sure they're dry, and that there's very little moisture there. As a matter of fact, moisture can decrease, I forget the percentage, but the amount of moisture that's contained around or in the seed can decrease the viability of the seed dramatically. So be sure to allow them to dry. And number three, you're going to have to store them, right? You're going to have to store them somewhere over winter. For next year's garden and whatnot. So you want to make sure to store them in a breathable container. So nothing plastic. Plastic does not breathe. Plastic will hold in moisture. It doesn't allow for gas exchanges, but you could put it in some kind of cloth or some kind of paper, which will keep moisture being regulated rather than contained within the plastic confines of a Ziploc bag or something like that. Now, you can also, at this point in time, coat the seeds with a little antifungal powder. And I don't mean something you'd put on your foot for your athlete's problem, but something that may work actually. We have to experiment with that. But something called elemental sulfur is easy to find in garden centers or feed and seed stores, and you can coat the seed in elemental sulfur. It's going to smell really bad. Sulfur is not the best smelling element on the periodic table, but if you coat the seeds in that, that'll help keep fungus at bay if there is some kind of issue that comes in while the seed is in storage. And lastly, you want to take your seeds that are in a breathable container and place them in a cool place. A basement may be okay. You don't want it to be very moist and wet though. So I would recommend a refrigerator. A refrigerator somewhere around 40 degrees is just fine. As a matter of fact, for every, I believe, 10-degree drop in temperature, you will double the viability of the seed. So if you're saving them over winter, put them in a cool, dry place. Particularly a refrigerator should work just fine. You store them there, and what happens is you'll be able to increase the viability of the seed. Let's see. So again, to recap, on saving seeds, you want to collect the seed when it is most ripened. You want to allow them to dry, number two. Number three, you want to place them in a breathable container like paper or some kind of cloth, not plastic, never plastic. You can coat them at that time with elemental sulfur or whatnot for antifungal property. And number four, you want to store them in a cool, dry place. And then, of course, you have seeds that you can then plant in the ground and be just like the first person who decided, oh, if I put this little thing in the ground, I can get a plant out of it. And that is the basics of agriculture, the basics of cultivation for sure. So join the 10,000 years worth of people who have been saving seeds and save your seeds this winter. Folks, I want to remind you before we head out of the studio this morning that next week, a buddy of mine, Cody Gambrell from the Walt Disney World Kingdom, I guess I should say, he does horticulture down at Walt Disney World in Orlando, and he plants things, he gives presentations on things. He is going to join us next week on the program at 9 o'clock. And what we're going to talk about are the secrets behind the magic of horticulture and gardening at Walt Disney World. Now, I told him I don't want to get him in trouble, but I'm going to ask some really revealing questions about the gardens down at Walt Disney World. And he says that he can talk about most things, but some things he can't talk about. So I'll see how far I can push him and see how much information we can get from him. But I had the opportunity to visit him a few years back, sometime after graduating together from UGA Horticulture, and had a great time. He walked me and she's my wife now. At the time, she was a girlfriend. I don't think we were engaged, but regardless, he will be here to give us those secrets about horticulture at Disney World. So you've got to join us again at 9 o'clock next week for Let's Get Growing. I want to remind you that you can watch this entire show on YouTube and Facebook. Just search WRWH 93.9, and you can watch all of our old shows on YouTube and Facebook. If you've missed anything, you've missed a lot of important stuff. So hang on tight throughout the week. I'll be back with you again at 9 o'clock, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thanks for joining us for today's Let's Get Growing program with Nathan Wilson. If you have a comment about today's program, you can reach out to Nathan by sending an email to grow@laniernursarygardens.com. Join us next Saturday for Let's Get Growing on Local News Radio 93.9 FM and AM 1350.